All right, welcome. Thank you everyone for joining us today for this Zoom media conference and Facebook live stream. Today, Mayor Drew Dilkens is joined by members of City Administration to provide an important update on the Riverfront Celestial Beacon Project. They are joined by representatives of our local media. Mayor Dilkens will provide some introductory remarks momentarily, and following this, we will have a video and slide presentation. We will conclude with questions from the media. A reminder to participants, you must turn your own microphone and camera on and off using the Zoom buttons in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Panelists, please ensure that your camera is enabled for the entire session, but only turn your microphone on when speaking. Media members, please use the chat function in the Zoom screen to request a question. And once the panelists have finished their presentation and discussion, media members will be called upon to ask questions and your microphone will be enabled at that time. Thank you for your attendance and participation today, and thank you for your willingness to use this technology. I will now turn things over to Mayor Dilkens to start us off. Go ahead, Your Worship.
Well, thank you very much, Dana. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I am very excited to be here to be able to provide an update on the Riverfront Celestial Beacon Project and the launch of a community survey connected with this initiative. And joining me today are Jan Wilson, our corporate lead for Parks, Rec, Culture, and Facilities. Heidi Baillargeon is here as well. She's the manager of Parks Development. And Wadah Al-Yassiri is our project administrator. And we are working in partnership with Architectura. The City of Windsor has been looking to make the Celestial Beacon Streetcar project the westernmost fixture in the Central Riverfront Implementation Plan located closest to the University of Windsor. This will be the third of 5 destinations and landmarks along Windsor's shoreline of the Detroit River that will explore themes provoking contemplation of time, while also providing amenities like washrooms, concessions, information, and architectural ingenuity. The Peace Beacon at the foot of Olette Avenue has shown us how our riverfront amenities can be improved without impacting our fantastic view. It truly does take vision and commitment to accomplish what we're talking about today, and I'm proud to help launch the next phase of our riverfront revitalization. Now more than ever, it is vital that we create open and accessible public amenities that allow residents to enjoy our community's fantastic outdoor spaces. And today you'll hear more about the Central Riverfront Plan that was first laid out in 2000 when Council of the Day approved a 25-year plan to continually better our waterfront. Once a thriving railway connection for industry, today this area of our city is a world-class family-friendly destination. You'll also hear about Streetcar number 351, a relic from Windsor's past and one of those unique artifacts that is important because it is truly authentic to the City of Windsor's history. We were the first city in Canada to have a functioning electric streetcar system in our community, and we had a regional transit system that went from the late 1800s all the way until 1939. This car is one of 3 known streetcars that remain out of the 220 that operated in Windsor in the late 1800s and early 1900s. The other 2 cars are in museums outside of our community. So this really is Windsor's last opportunity to showcase its electric railway history, which clearly connects with us being the automotive capital in Canada. And since I first learned about the streetcar, I knew we had to do something to find a new life for Car 351 and to write a new chapter for it in our community. And I'm proud that Council, our project partners and sponsors, and the public see the value and the vision for this streetcar, and I'm excited that it will become a focal point of the Celestial Beacon. The location is near the Sandwich Heritage Area, which will also complement the car's history and where it ran. Such spaces become a source of pride for a community. They become a gathering space, and the more unique you make them, the more they draw people to explore. You've heard me say that Windsor has a long and proud tradition of celebrating its rich history and heritage and highlighting the stories that make our community unique. You've also heard me talk about our waterfront, which offers unparalleled parks and gardens, including our outdoor sculpture collection and monuments depicting stories of our past. This incredible stretch of land is a space for our community that encourages engagement, health, and well-being. It also provides opportunities to celebrate our cultural identity and diversity. History, heritage, stories, celebrations, explorations, community engagement. That's what the Celestial Beacon and Streetcar number 351, that's what those projects are really all about. And that's what we're talking about today. So here to speak about the next phase of this innovative project is Jan Wilson, our corporate leader for Parks, Recreation, Culture, and Facilities. Thanks for joining today, Jan. Please take it away.
Thank you so much, Mayor Dilkens. You know, at Parks, Recreation, and Culture, we're very excited by this next project in the Central Riverfront Implementation Plan. I was here when the last spike ceremony was held to signal the start of the development on our riverfront, and I've been so privileged to be part of this amazing transformation. And we're excited to continue the tradition of community engagement and consultation for initiatives that inspire. Now, normally when we plan for a new park development, we would bring concept plans to the community through an open house where you can meet the project team, see the drawings and storyboards for the concepts, and provide feedback, usually through a comment sheet at the open house. Well, today we're doing things a little bit differently. Now, Wadah is the project administrator overseeing this project. He was also the lead for the project of the new City Hall. It's an amazing place for residents and staff. So he's very talented in getting projects completed on time and on budget, while making sure that needs are met and that form and function are equally addressed. And Heidi is our manager of Parks Development. Very creative individual who will ensure the development fits seamlessly into the park, incorporating the landscaping and all the park uses that are part of this development. Now, in today's Zoom meeting, we're going to be showcasing the plans for the Celestial Beacon, and we'll be launching a community survey so that everyone can become part of the planning for the next stage in Windsor's riverfront history. But before I get started on the presentation, I'll turn things back over to you, Mayor Dilkens, so you can introduce our video. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Jan. You know, it's something we've been working on for so long now. It's easy for us to talk about this incredible project and to describe the features and amenities and vision for the Celestial Beacon. But before we ask everyone to sit down and participate in a survey to help shape this unique new space in our community, we wanted you to see what everyone working on has dreamed up to this point. The talented team at Windsor's Architecture Inc. have put together the following video, and it captures the promise and the possibility of the Celestial Beacon, and of course it showcases streetcar number 351. Dana, if you cue the video, please, so everyone can take a look. I love it. Every time I see it, I love that video. It's amazing to see it again. The video certainly gives you a glimpse of the true potential of the project. And Jan, the floor is yours again to talk about the location, the design concept and considerations, and what happens next.
Thank you very much, Councillor or Mayor Dilkens. And I'm really excited to take you through this presentation. And I think Dana's going to help by putting our slide deck up on our presentation, and I'll walk you through it. All right. Okay, so Dana, if you could take us through to the next slide. All right, so the purpose of this meeting today is to really introduce you to the concepts of the Celestial Beacon and how it integrates with the park, as well as becoming the new home for the Streetcar 351. It will allow us to solicit some feedback on this whole concept. So if we go to the next slide. A little bit of our background. So the Celestial Beacon, it's really one of 5 beacons that's identified in the Central Riverfront Implementation Plan. Now this plan is a master planning document that Council approved in 2000, and it stretches along our riverfront from the Hiram Walker end on the east and the Ambassador Bridge end on the west. And this plan had underwent extensive community consultations and really brought in all of the features that people wanted to see on our riverfront. We did go back in 2014 also to just reaffirm the guiding principles of this master plan, and the community overwhelmingly approved and supported those existing principles. So now the Celestial Beacon is the one on the westernmost side of the riverfront, closest to the University of Windsor. And the intention here is to really have an opportunity to appreciate, the celestial skies and having the beautiful view of our waterfront. So we'll go to the next slide. And here you can see a little bit better where the location of the Celestial Beacon is. As you can see, it's close to Assumption Park, right near the foot of Askin Avenue. And we'll go on to the next slide. One of the things that was very important for this project is to ensure that we considered the site design and the features of the existing park and what the design considerations were for this beacon that was approved as part of the master plan. So some of those design considerations were using the embankment, so ensuring that we integrate the building into that embankment, making sure we address accessibility, ensure it's really accessible to all our community, making sure that we have our continuous opportunity to use our trails along our full riverfront, and to respect the views that we want to continue to maintain of our amazing waterfront. We also needed to ensure we had a place for the streetcar. That was part of the decision by council just a year or two ago with respect to where do we house that streetcar, and so that was part of the design consideration. So in the next slide, you can see we're going to have ensure we have a number of amenities that are part of this beacon that were part of the original design principles for this beacon. So we needed to ensure it was a hub. So there are washrooms, there is a food service area, we have a shaded area with a terrace, we have our trails, we can include some of the energy efficiency components. So we have a green roof here. We also have an EV charging station proposed. And we also have an area that can house smaller special events, not on the scale of the Festival Plaza. At this end, it's more appropriate for some of the smaller group events. So all of these features or amenities were part of the planning for this concept plan. And then if we go on to the next slide. So you can see here that a very important feature of this development is to ensure that we maintain our sightlines of our amazing waterfront. That's one of the most important things for our community. And so you can see the various angles of views that has been respected as part of this project. And then we'll go on the next slide. So with the project milestones here, we wanted to show how we incorporated the streetcar element into the design of the Celestial Beacon. So we did receive the streetcar in a condition you probably would never recognize, and we hired a company called RM Restoration to undertake that complete restoration. We held an open house back in early 2018 to determine where should this streetcar be housed once it's restored. We also had a survey open for a couple of months where people could chime in on where they thought it should go. And those results were presented back to council in about the summer of 2018. And council determined at that time that the Celestial Beacon was the most appropriate location for this. And they also authorized us to go ahead and do some of the site work that's important to start before you actually start designing the project. So we did have to do some of that exploration of the site work. Council then approved that once our 2019 budget was approved, we could proceed with the design. And so we did that and hired Architectura. And so now we're at this stage where we can share this package of this design and how it integrates with the Streetcar 351. And if we go to the next slide, you can see the vision for this design was to integrate the program with the building to host a streetcar, along with the full concept for the Celestial Beacon itself. So we wanted to make sure that we had the footprint that was appropriate for the size and scope of the streetcar, which is an incredibly amazing artifact. That is the largest artifact that I have seen. And so the building had to reflect the whole magnitude of that, but keeping in mind that it's within a park and we wanted to integrate it so that people still felt that comfortable in using the park. So that was very important part of the design. And we'll go into the next phase, the next slide. So you can see that the other elements that we were incorporating into this design is we thought it would be helpful to have, for example, a rooftop that people could actually access. So they can access this from the street level and the sidewalk on the street level to continue to view the riverfront, as well as the looking over the plaza. We wanted to make sure that the pedestrian trail was uninterrupted so that you could use it on the north and the south side of the building, and respecting the views of the riverfront as you're going along Riverside Drive. And the next page, the next slide. With the gallery itself, as I noted, it is quite a large artifact, so we had to see how we could design this best. We situated it within the park so that it could maximize the use of the large embankment that's on this parkland, and minimize how far up it went above that grade. So there's only a small portion that's above the grade, with the majority of this whole structure being below grade. We'll go to the next slide. Some of the energy efficiency components that we wanted to incorporate was that we're meeting our other documents and master plans that we have with respect to our climate change. And so we tried to look at how can we incorporate some of those things, including some green design targets. So you can see there's shading that will reduce the heat effect. There's the green roof. And we wanted to make sure that the strategy had a low energy use intensity. So then the next slide. So what's our next steps? We are going to have this whole presentation and the video available to our residents to view on our website. We would love for you to take a look at that and then take part in the online survey. That survey will be open for about a week and a half. We ask you to please fill that out. And then once we receive that feedback, council will receive the report along with a summary of that feedback for their consideration to move on to the very next step. So the next slide, I wanted to thank you for indulging me in this new type of open house. And I encourage you to go to our city website at citywindsor.ca, search Celestial Beacon, and it will take you right to the information that you're looking for. So I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you very much, Jan, and all the people on the panel with me today, and really everyone in the community knows that I love public art and I love placemaking. And no matter where I am, where I've been in the world, I am drawn to the art and the monuments, the installations, all the things that a community creates and displays. And when those installations have a connection to the history of a place, it's instantly more compelling to me. It's certainly more important. And I'm fascinated by how such works and the spaces that they inhabit not only tell part of a community story, but how they pull people in, making them stop to appreciate the world around them. We are given the opportunity to reflect on who we have been and where we've come from, while helping us to celebrate where we are now. And spaces like the Celestial Beacon, we envision capture moments from the past and share them in the present and well into the future. Windsor is an international gateway between the United States and Canada, with a long and proud history of helping people get from one place to another using the most evolved technology of the day. Streetcar number 351 is a piece of that history, and I am so thankful that we have it. The innovative and impressive Celestial Beacon will be an accessible, multi-use, state-of-the-art home for this important piece of Windsor's story, and I'm grateful to everyone, the staff, the restorers, the donors and partners, the designers, the architects, and to you, everyone about to take the survey, for helping to make this vision a reality. This is an exciting project for our community, so please take the opportunity to ensure that your voice is heard. Here's to writing the next chapter of Windsor Streetcar number 351 and our Central Riverfront Implementation Plan. Here's to the Celestial Beacon and to all that it may become. And with that, I would like to open up the floor for questions from the media. Dana, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. At this time, media, if any of you have a question that you would like to ask to any of the panelists today, please go ahead and indicate it by using the raise hand button in Zoom or in the chat feature in the bottom right hand of the screen. We do have a couple questions coming into us. The first is from Rich Garden of CTV. Rich, go ahead and enable your microphone, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so the first question is, we know that the restoration cost roughly $750,000. What is the price tag attached to this entire project, including that total for the restoration of Streetcar 351?
Well, Rich, we're going to wait. Certainly, we're going to put that in a report that's going to City Council for their consideration on June the 15th, but partially that will be driven by some of the information that we're about to receive in the survey. So there may be some legitimate design concepts that come forward that we should consider to factor into the pricing. But let me share with you that the streetcar itself, and because this project includes the streetcar, we are able to apply for a $3 million grant from Heritage Canada to help support the construction of this Celestial Beacon. If the streetcar was not included with this project, we would not be eligible to apply for that $3 million grant from Heritage Canada. And as most of you are aware, as festival season is generally underway, we see that there are no festivals because of COVID. What that means is a lot of the organizations that had received some funding from Heritage Canada to run some of the festivals will not be using it. It's been handed back and is being held in abeyance. So we have very strong indications from Heritage Canada that this is a project that would receive very significant attention. Certainly checks all of the boxes on the objectives that they have, and we would certainly be seeking the maximum amount from Heritage Canada to offset portions of the cost of the project. It's also worth noting that the washrooms that currently exist at this location are on, I don't know how to say it any other way, but very borrowed time, and we've been putting lipstick on the pig right now to keep the washrooms open. That we will have to spend considerable money to replace those washrooms in a way that's similar to what you see happening over in Alexander Park right now, where the washroom is nearing conclusion of construction. And so you can anticipate, and Heidi and Jan would have those costs, but you can anticipate that the cost for a similar type construction would be around the same, which I think Jan was at $600,000-$700,000 for the washroom at that location, or even higher.
Yeah, you're in the right ballpark there. It was around that range. It's challenging when you're doing building on the riverfront and the site conditions that we have. So it does tend to drive the price up a little bit.
So you were going to have to spend some money. The city is going to have to spend some money at this location anyway. Wide public consultation has happened both with the Central Riverfront Implementation Plan and the concept of beacons to make sure that that plan, that CRIP plan, was still valid in the mind of residents. It was put out for a reconsultation in either 2014 or 15, and that was done, and the concept of beacons was reaffirmed by the public in the CRIP plan and approved again by City Council. And the whole streetcar project, of course, went through wide debate and was ultimately approved for restoration. It went for restoration, and we have it back in the city of Windsor today. And so as that work was happening, the restoration work was happening, as Jan mentioned, consultation again happened with the community on where would the community like to see, where do you think the streetcar should go? And ultimately, at the end of that public consultation, it was agreed and ultimately approved by City Council, I believe unanimously, that the streetcar would be married into the Celestial Beacon, and then administration in June of 2018 was set on a pathway to start looking at ground conditions, start looking at design considerations, and to come back to council in due course with the plan or with a plan. And you see their proposed plan today. So as public consultation or the survey period starts, right now, there may be some design considerations, as I had suggested, that come forward from members of the community that make us tweak some of the things that we see and some things that we may not have considered. We are certainly willing to consider those things, to look at them. We have done a lot of internal work as an administration to make sure that we've captured a lot of the elements we believe the community is looking for. But there may be others, and we want to hear from the community and get that feedback. And all of the numbers that we're estimating will go to City Council for the report that will be heard and deliberated on June the 15th.
Thank you, Rich. Any further questions?
Can you still hear me?
Yes.
So if there's already been consultation, and you said that this is a survey driven consultation process, obviously because it's going to be difficult to do a public open house, what input can people actually provide if the design looks to be done and if council's already approved the location?
Well, let me tell you, Rich, and I've shared the video that you just saw. I've shared that with many members of City Council, with most of City Council, frankly. And in the course of sharing that, there were things that came forward for discussion at that time, and it could be simple things like where to locate the bike rack. And so as part of this project, you probably noticed that bike rental will be included, and it was noted on the video, and you'll have access to the video very soon if you don't already. And so there's also bike parking there because people will be using the waterfront to get to this location, many of them not driving, but either walking or riding a bike. And so some of the consultation, even with my colleagues, came out where there were some indicators that we could make some design improvements, which the video we just showed you will be slightly different than what City Council saw because we've considered some of their feedback as part of the work that's brought us to where we are today. And so we don't know. The community may have other ideas in terms of things they'd like to see that would alter some of the configuration, and we're all ears to listen to that, to accept the feedback, and to try and tweak the project to make sure that we haven't forgotten anything.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Rich. Next, Ann Jarvis from the Windsor Star. Ann, go ahead and enable your microphone.
Hello all, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my first question is when is this, when do you see this being built and ready? Do you have a timeline yet?
Ann, good question. I'll turn it over to Jan for more answer to that. Let me just say that the grant with Heritage Canada is actually a fairly unique grant when it comes to other grants that we apply for from either the federal or provincial government. And so most of the grants that we apply for, whether it's DMAF, whether it's the ISIP funding, whether it was infrastructure stimulus funding, you cannot start incurring costs on the project until you have been approved to receive the grant. Any expenses you incur ahead of your approval for the grant are deemed ineligible. The Canadian Heritage Grant is actually different. It allows you to start incurring expenses once you've filed your application, your grant submission. So the date we actually file it, we can actually start work on the project if approved by council and see the project move forward as we wait for the deliberation, which could take a month, 2 months, 3 months, we're not entirely sure, hopefully sooner rather than later, but it shouldn't hold up the process and the progress in moving forward, because we can start spending some of the money that would not be part of the grant funding received to move forward on the project and still get those costs back. But in terms of timing, Jen, if you can jump in and just talk about a potential construction schedule.
Sure, and I'll likely gonna send this over to Wadah to walk us through that. That's his area of expertise. But obviously, the first step is we need our community input, and then off to council and council approval. So once we do have approval for council for a final design, then we would go to the next phase, which is doing more detailed drawings, which is where I'll ask Wadah just to pick that up and just identify very briefly what the next steps are and how long a project of this magnitude would take.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you very much for the kind words at the beginning of the presentation, Jan. As soon as, we had multiple iteration with the Architectura to come up with this, what you see today with the preliminary design. But as His Worship alluded to, that doesn't mean we cannot tweak or fine-tune some of the design based on the public or council kind of wishes and direction. Absolutely, we can do so. But at the same time, we really did our due diligence and homework between myself, Heidi, and Architectura with respect to the location of the building, the embankment, the use of the terrain, how we can maximize our benefit, yet minimize our cost. And with that said, that's why you see it in that location. There was some sewer conflict that we needed to shift the building a little bit. We already went through with the consultant with the archaeological requirement, ERCA. We are already in contact with them. The same thing with the soil report and requirement. So behind the scene, we are brewing towards the final detailed design, but at the same time, we couldn't share something until the stage where we have a preliminary rendering of what we are looking for and for the public and council to look for. So with that said, as soon as we get the blessing and the approval after our council report on the 15th, we will literally hit the ground running. So if I would say by the end of this year, if not before, we should be able to have the full detailed design package. And then that actually part of the strategy that we are working with the consultants, similar to what we did with the new City Hall, aiming to finish all the design towards the end of the year, tender our package towards winter time when everything is slow, contractors are hungry for bidding, making sure we get the the best bang for our buck here. And then once we have everything and our ducks in a row, so to speak, we start with the construction early spring of next year. But again, that's all subject to council and mayor approval and feedback, and definitely the public and all these things. One of the things that also I want to share with respect to the building and the unique location and the direction, because again, benefit from the new City Hall that we built, the orientation of the building and the glasses that you see on the north side, that would be the best location if you have a glass, especially with the building embedded in the embankment, because that will definitely mean lots of energy saving and efficiency. And these are one of the things that we benefited from the new City Hall, and we learned from it, and we will definitely implement as we go with this building once we have the green light.
And any further questions?
I want to ask the names that are printed on the wall facing Riverside Drive, are those the names of the stations of the former streetcar when it operated?
Yes, and those were actually the names that were on the scroll. So when we received the streetcar from George Sophos and Ben Niferus, when it was sent finally out to Chatham to RM Restorations, when they started, I'd say tearing it apart, but they had to take pieces apart in order to get down to the bones of it. It wasn't known at the time that the scroll was still embedded in the streetcar after all those years, and so they took the piece off, and there was the scroll that we have till today, and we have lots of pictures of it sort of unfurled. And so all of the names that are on the side reflect the names that each of the names that was on that scroll for the streetcar.
Oh, very, very cool. And finally, can people go in the actual streetcar? I mean, walk down the aisle of it?
Yes. And so, listen, I'm going to be fully transparent here and say that when I first started this conversation, the people on the line here were probably laughing at me today, thinking about what I said and where we've come. But the initial conversation is we'd like to get this streetcar, put it somewhere, perhaps on the waterfront, and sell ice cream or have a wine or do something out of it to make it a functional piece. And then it became pretty clear that once we sent it for restoration and the work that was happening, that the order of magnitude, as Rich had said from the beginning, $750,000 to restore this back to basically original condition. It's just too risky because this is an asset where this is not easily replaced. Parts were very, very difficult to find, and we do not want to risk the damage that we know can happen with artifacts like this that have happened elsewhere by leaving it fully exposed. So that the housing for the streetcar will actually keep it protected, but it's also climate controlled in a way that it's not going to crack or experience problems over the years because of changes in weather conditions. And so the goal here is to provide limited access to the streetcar. So either when the bike rental is open or when food service is open, we're still trying to work through the mechanics there, but there would have to be controlled access that would be done in a coordinated way with either bike rental or food service. And they would be allowed to then get on the streetcar, walk through it, sit on it, take pictures. And inside there was whole thought given to design as well, and trying to capture some of either the photos of the streetcar. There was a lot of thought put in by architecture and others on how we would tell the story of the streetcar and why it was important pictorially inside the building. But to answer your question directly, yes, you will be able to get on the streetcar, but it will be controlled access when the Celestial Beacon is open for business.
All right, thank you.
Thanks very much, Anne. Next, we have a question from Maureen Rive with Blackburn News. Maureen, go ahead and enable your microphone.
Hello?
Yes, perfect.
Hi. A couple of questions. First, the approval that was in the 2019 capital budget, was that just for the planning, or was there a part that was budgeted for already?
Yeah, that includes a significant amount towards the work for the project as well. And so there was planning work that had to go into it. I mean, you just imagine this as a full project from the start to the end. And so that budget would include part of the planning work, but certainly the construction, a lot of the construction work as well.
Sorry, so what was that figure in the 2019 budget?
I'd have to get Joe. It was over $2 million, I think, Jan, right?
Yes, there was $400,000 in one area for the planning, also some of the site work that was needed, and there was a $2 million placeholder that was set aside to go towards the contribution for the construction.
And the food service that you're envisioning, or the bike rental, would that be like a contract thing that you're looking at?
Yeah, it would not be. We're not anticipating city delivering the food or beverage service. We would probably RFP that out and find a provider in the community. On the bike rental side, we're excited that TWEPI, actually Tours in Windsor Essex Peely Island, wants to be involved in the project and actually have one of their staff. They believe this will be a destination in our region for people to go because of the location, the proximity to the bridge. This will be the best view where you can go and have a water or a wine, a snack, anywhere in the city of Windsor. This will be one of the best views. And having this streetcar makes it a project that we know will attract people. And so they actually want to be part in delivering the service for the bike rental program, not bike share, bike rental program. And so we expect our partners at TWEPI will be stepping up and delivering that service.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much, Maureen. Members of the media, any more questions, please? That looks like everything for us now. I'll turn it back to you, Mayor Dilkens.
Well, thank you very much, Dana. Thank you for the questions, everyone. All of this material will be on our website. We want the public to see it. We want you to watch the video. A lot of times it's really, really cool. And I think of where we started with the concept of this and where we've come. And it's just amazing. It's incredible. And I think of, some of the criticism that's been wielded in the past by some members of the public where they say, the city does all these plans and it just sits on a shelf collecting dust. Well, I can tell you that this has been a labor of love for many, and the fact that we have the Central Riverfront Implementation Plan that was approved in 2000, again, reapproved in about 2014 or 2015 by the public, and we're moving forward with the next piece, a next big piece in that project, in that plan. And this Celestial Beacon, as you can see, incorporates our history. It is remarkable. It will be a place where many in this community want to go. And it has a lot of the modern amenities, whether it's electric vehicle charging stations, whether it's bike rental and proper bike facilities, food service. This will be, and one of the criticisms we've heard is, we need more amenities closer to the water. We are taking you almost right to the water while leaving enough pathway, a big wide swath of pathway for folks to be able to get by as well on both sides, above the streetcar and below where the streetcar would be. So this is a very, very exciting project. I am excited about it. I'm passionate about our city's history. This is a chance to connect so many dots, and I know many members of council are very excited about this as well. And when I look at the team that is on the screen, Wadah Al-Yassiri, the man who delivered our city hall on time and on budget, did a great job there. I have full faith and confidence in Wadah and his team, and Jan has been doing a remarkable job leading the Parks and Recreation and Culture Department, and certainly I think, Jan, this touches on all of those elements in one way or another, and I'm excited that you can be part of this. And Heidi, welcome, or congratulations on your appointment, replacing Mike Clement in the Parks Department. So Heidi brings some expertise to the project, and I know she's passionate, probably equally as passionate about it as I am, and we look forward to marrying those passions together in a way that delivers a great project together for our community. So please fill out the survey online. Give us your feedback. Give us your ideas. We want to hear it. We want to see what you have in mind. And we look forward to a robust debate at City Council on how we're going to move this project forward on June the 15th. Thanks very much for joining us today, everyone, and have a great weekend.